Lifted hard in the air to left, back, at the wall, a leaping grab by Benintendi.
Rivers home, swinging a high fly ball, right field, it's a deep, way back and gone, and it's a 3-run home run for pinch hitter Mitch Moreland. The Red Sox are right back in it. Pitch. Swing, there's a high drive, left center field, back goes Bellinger, back by the wall, and John, we have a tie game! Steve Pearce is hitting out with time and 4. Set again, and he delivers the 2-0, and a swing and a ground ball at the middle of base hit. Rockhold comes around third, he will score! Devers does it again, and the Red Sox come back to lead it, 5-4 in the ninth.
High fly ball into center. Back at the wall. It is gone. Martinez goes deep.
Sale winds. He fires. Swing and a miss. Frankly, it's over. The Red Sox have won the World Championship. The Boston Red Sox beat the Los Angeles Dodgers 5-1. They win the World Series 4-1.
Good evening, people! Thank you for listening to J-Ho, the Sports Dude. Welcome to the Sports Podcast, and oh boy, it's an exciting day. The Red Sox are World Series champions. You hear that, New York? You hear that, Houston? You hear that, LA? World Series champions. Well, let's turn this stuff up. Alright then, so welcome to the show. This is a very special episode since we're recapping a championship. So I actually have a special guest on today, and possibly another guest that might come in later. But for now, here's my old pal, Kristen Bullock, who I've known since we were little kids. So what's up, Kristen? Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, J-Ho. Thank you for having me. I had to come on, obviously, after we won the World Series because I can't stop talking about it. So I'd love to talk to you about it today.
Yeah. So you actually work for the Red Sox. Can you explain to the audience what you do?
Yeah, I do. I work for the marketing department. I am part of the fan and youth, my title is Fan and Youth Engagement Relations. And so I kind of work inside the park when I'm at Fenway, and we do interactive stuff with the fans. We have booths. We try to have people sign up for Red Sox Nation, and then we also travel around the country doing around New England doing showcases for the Red Sox.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've got a pretty good view of this team throughout the whole year, so
Yeah. That's
pretty exciting.
Very lucky.
All right, then. So why don't we so usually I like to start off with a quick recap of each game. Game 1, the Red Sox won 8-4.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, going to this game, I thought that it would be an epic pitching matchup. You had, I think, the two best pitchers in the league with Chris Sale and Clayton Kershaw. That wasn't exactly the case. It was more like a slugfest. Chris Sale had an ERA of 6.75, which is not great, but it was definitely better than Clayton Kershaw, who had a ERA of 11.25. And as far as hits, the Red Sox had 11 and the Dodgers had 8. And it's in this game, for the first 5 innings, the Red Sox would score, but it always seemed like the Dodgers would just fight back and tie the game. Then in the bottom of the 5th inning, the Sox scored 2 runs, and then in the top of the 7th, the Dodgers scored a run. And then Nunez sealed the game with the 3-run homer in the bottom of the 7th. So what do you remember about Game 1?
I mean, that was a great game, and I had no doubt in my mind, like, as soon as Sale was pitching, that we were going to win the game. So, yeah, just going into that, it was a win from before we started. Mm-hmm.
So, Even though I would say Chris Sale didn't quite look like himself. I obviously going up against Clayton Kershaw, who's honestly not a great postseason pitcher, I was pretty confident. Yeah, it was a good Game 1 victory, I would say. It like I said before, it wasn't what I expected.
Yeah.
I thought it would be like one of the great pitching matchups, and it definitely was not. In fact, moving on to Game 2, that was honestly more of the great pitching matchup. So in Game 2, the Red Sox won 4-2, and so looking at this game, I was looking at David Price, who was going up against Hyunjin Ryu. Hopefully I said that right. Yeah. And I wanted to see if Game 5 against the Astros was not a fluke and he could pitch well. And I thought he pitched really well. He had an ERA of 3, while Ryu had an ERA of 4.71. The Red Sox out-hit the Dodgers 8-3. The Red Sox struck first with a run at the bottom of the second with a single off Kinsler. Dodgers scored 2 runs in the top of the fourth, and at that point, I was a little worried about Price because my experience watching David Price, when things go bad, like it doesn't seem like he forgets it. It just like he starts to panic, and then like we get an avalanche of terribleness. Like against the Yankees, once he allows a home run, he allows a bunch of home runs. So that was what I was worried about. But after that, he continued to pitch really well, and which is great. And then the Red Sox got a Ryu out of the game after he loaded up the bases at the bottom of the fifth, and he put up 3 runs with a walk and a single from JD Martinez, and the bullpen did the rest, and no more runs after that. So. This was definitely more of a pitching matchup than the so-called predicted pitching matchup. So,
I don't know. I had flip-flopping feelings with David Price because he was at the time of Game 2, he was 0 for 9 in the playoffs. Yeah, and like that, or 0 for 10. Like I just wasn't like his past history. Just I was very nervous. And then when he started to do bad, like you said, he just avalanches and he can't really move forward. So I got very nervous.
Yeah, I mean, I on the show I called him a lost cause. So that shows how I felt about him.
But he's one of our best pitchers ever in the regular season. So you can't really give up on him.
Yeah, actually, we'll talk about this later. But honestly, from maybe. He might have been the best pitcher because he was the only guy who pitched 2 games. I'm pretty sure pitched two full games. Full games. So we'll go into that later. But going up 2-0 was always really good. So I kind of felt that the Red Sox just need to get 1 victory on the road. Then I figured that they would pretty much be set because they were not going to lose twice in Fenway Park. And so going up to Game 3, unfortunately, the Red Sox lost. The Dodgers won 3-2. And this was actually the longest postseason game of all time, and it went to 18 innings. Did you stay up to watch this game?
Of course I did. I think every Red Sox fan stayed up till 4 in the morning.
Yeah, 3:40 in the morning. It was rough. That was one of the roughest Red Sox losses of all time because we stayed up and like Eovaldi
pitched a whole game.
Yeah. He basically had a start.
He had 97 pitches that game.
It was.
That's a full game.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and so this was another pitching. This was definitely a pitching duel between Walker Buehler and Rick Porcello, who at first in this game basically nobody could hit. Yeah. Porcello had an ERA of 1.93 and Buehler had an ERA of 0, so he was definitely in a zone.
Yeah.
And as far as stats, Dodgers had 11 hits and the Red Sox had 7. So the Dodgers scored first with Jock Peterson hitting a home run, and then basically there was no runs until Jackie Bradley hit a home run off of Jansen in the top of the 8th. And then we went to extra innings in which both teams used their bullpens. And eventually, the Red Sox had to put in Nathan Eovaldi, who you said, threw 97 pitches. And it seemed like actually in the 13th inning, the Red Sox would come with the victory after scoring a run in the top of the 13th after an error off Scott Alexander. And then the Dodgers proceeded to tie the game after 2 Dodgers were put on base, and Ian Kinsler threw the ball away with a throw to first off of a Puig hit. So that was rough. and that was pretty terrible. And then the Dodgers, both teams, it seemed like both teams were pretty tired. And looking at it, I figured it was probably going to be a home run that was going to win this game, because it didn't seem like both teams could grind at bats to get into scoring position. So, and looking at that, that definitely favored the Dodgers, and especially with JD Martinez not being in the game. Obviously that didn't really go into the Red Sox hand, and eventually that's what happened. Max Muncy hit a home run in the bottom of the 18th inning to win the game. And so at this point, I was actually kind of worried, because it seemed like the Red Sox had worn out their pitchers, like their bullpen and Eovaldi. And I was also worried that the momentum is kind of weird in sports. But I kind of was worried that momentum had changed, because it seemed like the Dodgers would be energized after such a tough win. So what was your thoughts after this game? Because this was a tough loss. Yeah,
this was hard. And I never, if you kind of have to think about it this way too, we're in LA, so we're also 3 hours. Like the Dodgers have such a higher, like, they're so much more used to playing at those late of hours. So technically for us, it's like 7 a.m. While they're up. And so they had to be up the next day to have a game. And I was like, I don't even know if Cora is going to have a postseason or a post-game talk with the boys. Like, I would just send them right to bed. And I know I was wicked nervous, and I was also very nervous about Eovaldi. And I heard the next day that he went up to Cora and was like, no, I'm ready. Like, I want to start. Like, I want to pitch again. And so, like, having that faith was really nice. But I was definitely nervous about that, having to play again in, like, another few hours. Yeah.
Like, if it was just a loss, I could get over it. The fact that it was such a draining loss, and they used up all their pitchers, and like, it was such a heartbreaking loss, that, like, those are, like, the worst. Because if it was just, like, I don't know, like, the Red Sox just lost or got blown out, then it would have been rough, but I would have, like, all right, on to the next one. But this one was I was pretty worried. And so moving up to Game 4, at first the worries kind of came into fruition. Even though the Red Sox won this game 9-6, and we were wondering who's going to be the pitcher, because all the pitchers were basically used. And so it was Cora said that a lefty would be used, and so Eduardo Rodriguez was actually announced as the starter. And I mean, he hadn't pitched a game in a while, but during the regular season he was a good pitcher, so I was optimistic, and he looked pretty good at first. And as far as hits, Red Sox had 8 and Dodgers had 9, and and at first this game kind of just looked like the same game as the night before, in which nobody was hitting, and it was just a pitching duel, and that's basically what it was for like 5 innings between Rich Hill and Eduardo Rodriguez. And both offenses did nothing, especially the Red Sox. The Red Sox only had like 1 hit in 6 innings, and only 4 Red Sox got on base during that span, and no runs. And then in the bottom of the 6th inning, the Dodgers struck first with the bases loaded, and Vasquez throwing a ball away while trying to throw into first base after getting a runner out at home, and then that put up a run, and then Puig hit a 3-run homer, and then it looked pretty bleak from there.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I thought it was over, because the offense wasn't doing anything, and 4 runs, like 1 run would have been enough. I thought, like, the fact that they put up 4, I was like, okay, this is over. I actually texted my brother saying, all right, we're moving on to Game 5.
See you tomorrow.
I said, like, I texted my brother saying, like, if they lose if they lose, they better win tomorrow, because if they don't, then we're really in trouble.
Yeah.
But then things kind of turned around a bit, and I guess they listened to me and they decided to wake up. And so at the top of the 7th, Bogarts and Holt walked, and then Mitch Moreland hit a 3-run home run to make it a ball game. And so I was pretty shocked about that, because they couldn't hit at all. Actually, the way I actually sort of found out about it is I was in my room, and I heard people screaming, and I checked my phone, and then they were up. They had Moreland hit a 3-run homer. Yeah. I'm like, wow, okay, we have a ball game.
We got a game.
All right, now they got to get another run. And so, and then next thing you know, Pierce tied the game with a home run in the top of the 8th. And then in the top of the ninth, the Red Sox got the lead with Devers' single after a Brock Holt double. And then the Red Sox put up 4 more runs for insurance. And it was definitely needed because Kimbrel did give up a 2-run homer at the end. But it was basically over at that point, so I wasn't too worried. So the insurance runs were needed.
Yeah.
And so after this game, what were you thinking?
I mean, I was so happy with Brock Holt. He's been my favorite player on the Red Sox just because he's just so versatile.
Yeah.
And then with him hitting the cycle, like I've had so much faith. And so like as soon as he was on base and like it was an amazing game. It was probably one of my favorite games to watch.
I like Brock Holt too, but my reason I like him is because he seems like he has the most personality.
He definitely does.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of Kevin Millar and Johnny Gomes when they were on the team, and like they were the jokesters, and like they were like the quirky,
just the fun guys
on the team. So like you always like the Red Sox always have those guys on the team, and I felt Brock Holt was definitely that.
He captured that.
Captured that. So I really like Brock Holt. So he was like the big personality on the team. And so, actually, going into... I did pick I think we both picked the Red Sox in 6.
Yeah.
So...
I did.
But I kind of had I don't know, for some reason I had a gut feeling that they were going to win Game 5. Because the Dodgers, like, they were like... lose that game, I'm sure was incredibly crushing to them.
Yeah.
And, like, it's kind of hard to bounce back from this...
3-1.
From the 3-1 and, like, especially that loss. And honestly, they probably should have lost Game 3. Like, if it weren't for that Kinsler error, they probably would have lost. So Game 3 was, I think, kind of a fluke. So I kind of felt that the Red Sox were going to win Game 5, and they actually did.
Yeah.
They won 5-1. And I actually thought Chris Sale was going to be announced the pitcher for Game 5. But it was announced to be David Price. And the Dodgers announced that Clayton Kershaw was going to be their pitcher. And I thought it was interesting.
It's a nice matchup again, though.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because on the last show I said one of these two pitchers has a chance to change their legacy of choking because these two are are known as probably the biggest postseason underachievers in the postseason in baseball, and so so it was interesting that. That this potentially the last game for the Red Sox was going to have 2 pitchers that could change their legacy, and I think one of them did, and the other definitely did not. In fact, I think one of them made it worse. But let's talk about the Red Sox. So Price definitely came on top, and Price had an ERA of 1.98, and Kershaw had an ERA of 7.36, and the Red Sox out-hit the Dodgers 8-3. And so the Red Sox struck first with a 2-run home run from Steve Pearce in the first. Then David Freese hit a home run in the bottom of the first, which maybe had that feeling of, oh God, is this going to be a snowball again? But then I was wrong. Actually, the Red Sox didn't allow any more runs after that. And then Mookie Betts hit a home run in the top of the 6th, and in the top of the 7th, JD Martinez hit a home run, and in the top of the 8th, Steve Pearce hit a home run. And then Chris Sale was actually, speaking of Chris Sale, he was actually put in the end as the closer, and he was able to get 3 straight outs. And I think it was just perfect that the last batter was Manny Machado. that loser, non-hustling, I'm not going to, obviously.
We all have our feelings for Machado.
Like I said, that non-hustling loser. And it was perfect that he was the last batter that Chris Sale struck out at his feet, because he likes to attack people's feet. So, and now the Red Sox were a victory, won in L.A. Actually, interestingly, this was the same score that the Dodgers lost to the Astros last year at home. So, all right. So let's go into some. So what was your So we actually both watched the game at the same place, Game 5. So just give me your initial thoughts after Game 5.
It's not even a blur. It's just happiness, I think.
How about just give me your quick reactions right after they won?
I was crying. Oh, I was crying, screaming. Everyone was hugging. Like, there was beer everywhere. Like, it was just, I will never, ever, ever forget those last 3 outs with Turner, Hernandez, and Machado. And then I just was crying.
Especially Machado.
And I think everyone just had, like, it was so nice to be, like, in Massachusetts and Boston for us to win that.
Yeah. Cool. And we actually went to the parade, too, so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so why don't we also get into some factors about how the Red Sox were able to get the victory. So I would say the first factor was the pitching, but specifically the bullpen, which it's just kind of interesting because going into the playoffs, that was one of the worries I had about the Red Sox, that their bullpen was pretty shaky, and especially against the Yankees, they gave me multiple heart attacks.
Kimbrel gave me a lot of heart attacks.
Yeah, actually, I don't think Kimbrel really needed. Yeah, I thought Kimbrel was pretty good. I don't think he really needed to do much, to be honest, but I thought he was really good in this series. As far as pitching, Chris Sale had an ERA of 5.4. Rodriguez had probably the worst ERA, 5.68. Rick Porcello had an ERA of 1.93, and Nathan Eovaldi had an ERA of 1.13, and David Price had a ERA of 1.98. Oh, and also I forgot to mention the World Series MVP was Steve Pearce, and it actually could have easily went to David Price considering how he was pitching, but in the last, I think the final Steve Pearce home run kind of sealed it for Steve Pearce. Yeah. So I would say while the starting pitching I wouldn't say was magnificent except for a few guys. They were better than the Dodgers starting pitching, which actually had some really good pitchers that played really, really well, like Walker Buehler, who looked like Sandy Koufax. He had an ERA of, like I mentioned before, he had an ERA of 0, and Rich Hill had an ERA of 1.42, and Clayton Kershaw had an ERA of 7.36, and Ryu had an ERA of 7.71. So while the starting pitching wasn't perfect, they, I believe, outpitched the Dodgers. But to me, like I said before, it was the bullpen that shined. I don't know if you knew this, but the bullpen, I did some calculations before the show. The bullpen only allowed 6 runs in the entire series. If you discount Eovaldi, I guess, because I technically kind of count that as a start. Yeah. He allowed 2. Eovaldi allowed 2 runs, so you could take that out, and there was a 2-run garbage time home run off Craig Kimbrel. So basically, only like 2 meaningful runs by the bullpen.
Runs,
by the bullpen. And the Dodgers bullpen was kind of awful. They allowed 20 runs in the entire series. So they were pretty bad.
I think one of my favorite things about our bullpen is Joe Kelly. I went to before the parade, I went to Fenway because there was like a pregame ceremony. Okay. And Joe Kelly was saying when he was with the Cardinals, he was like, "Oh, I was supposed to pitch Game 7 in the World Series when they lost, and they ended up not having to go to Game 7." And he was like, "Oh, I really wanted to pitch that, but now I'm for the Red Sox, and I pitched in all 5 World Series games." And he's like, "I loved that so much more than, and I would have never wanted to pitch a Game 7 over like that." I just thought that was really cool that he pitched all 5 games, and like he is just so happy to be on this team. And I think he came in very underestimated. Like he came in very clutch.
Yeah, he was amazing in this series. In fact, I believe his hold on, let me double check. Hold on one sec. I want to check Joe Kelly's ERA. So he actually had an ERA of 0. So he definitely did his part.
Yeah.
So yeah, Joe Kelly was one of those guys, kind of like David Price or Craig Kimbrel, that I kind of was pretty shaky about. Like he would have great games, and there was a big stretch of the season he was really good. Yeah. And there was a big stretch of the season he was really bad.
He's up and down. Yeah.
Yeah, but he definitely came, just like the entire bullpen, like Brazier, Barnes. They definitely came to play. So I was definitely very impressed with the bullpen. And another factor was the hitting. While in Game 3 they were pretty bad, I would say the Red Sox offense basically outperformed the Dodgers offense.
Yeah.
Hits, the Red Sox had 42, the Dodgers had 34, and actually in home runs, which is basically how the Dodgers get a lot of their offense, the Red Sox had 8 home runs, and the Dodgers had 6 home runs. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
And so some of the star players, obviously Steve Pearce, who hit 3 home runs and had a 3.33 batting average, and also Andrew Benintendi actually had a 3.33 batting average too, so he played pretty well. And Sandy Leon had a 500 batting average, even though I don't think he really did a ton. And Eduardo Nunez actually made a big impact when he was there.
He had some ups and downs, I would say, in the postseason though, so I was kind of nervous about him.
Yeah, he had a 300 batting average too. So and JD Martinez had a 2.78 batting average, so he played pretty well. And I don't know. And Mookie Betts and Xander Bogaerts were not great, but they definitely. I don't think Xander Bogaerts did much, but Mookie Betts did hit a home run, so it wasn't completely awful.
They just went for so long without a hit, and being two of our top best offensive players, I was just very disappointed in how they didn't come to the stage to perform.
Yeah, actually, I don't know if you knew this, but in Game 3, both Bogaerts and Betts were combined 0-15.
Yeah,
Betts was 0-7 and Bogaerts was 0-8.
Yeah,
but the interesting thing about this postseason is it's not really the stars; it's the role players.
Underdogs. Yeah,
it's the role players, which you need for a team to win. Because even though baseball's kind of it's kind of an individual sport because you're mano a mano against a pitcher. It is a team because you need the whole team to play well. Because if you just have one guy who's Barry Bonds, who was basically the only. If you had just Barry Bonds on a team, you're not gonna because he didn't win anything. So if you need a whole team, and that's basically what this was a team effort.
Yeah.
So
and Mookie definitely helped too because he's an amazing base runner too. So he with the 2 steals, he definitely still made an impact where he could.
Yeah, obviously in the outfield too. He's always there to make big catches when they need to. So and the Dodgers had a decent amount of players that did well. Justin Turner hit 3.33 batting average. Max Muncy had a big home run. He had 2.35 average. David Freese had a 4.17 average. And actually Cody Bellinger, who's one of their better players, was pretty dreadful. He had 1 hit and 16 at bats and get this 0.63 batting average.
No.
Yeah, he was.
Didn't know that.
Pretty awful. And Grandal had never mind. And so And as far as Machado, he had a 182 batting average, so he wasn't very good either. So so a lot of the Dodgers stars didn't do that well. So, and then also so let's go to the next factor, which is the managers, which and Alex Cora, he wasn't perfect I thought basically in the last few series he was basically flawless as far as his decision making. I didn't think he was perfect. I thought when Rodriguez was going up Yasiel Puig, I thought he probably should have taken him out before he let in the 3-run home runs. So I thought he made some mistakes, but for the most part he made the right lineup changes.
Yep.
Dave Roberts, not so much. He made a lot of very questionable decisions.
Yeah.
I think everybody in LA wants him fired at the stake. And I love Dave Roberts for what he did in 2004, and I love him now because he made a lot of. I thought he made some pretty bad decisions. So off the top of my head, in Game 1, it was very questionable. He took out Pedro Baez when he was pitching really well and put in Alex Wood, and then Nunez hit the 3-run home run. And then in Game 4, he put in he took out Rich Hill, and then which led to the bullpen basically allowing a bunch of runs. And so in the lineup changes, lineup in Game 1 and 2, he didn't really start a lot of his big bats, so that was very interesting. So I thought, like managers, I don't think managers have a big impact as far as the regular season, but I think in the postseason they do have a big impact with their decisions. So I think Cora has pushed the right buttons for this team. And I think he's the right guy for this team because when I'm sure you were there when John Farrell was still around. Yeah. Like it kind of seemed like the team was disconnected and they just didn't like him at all. So, but Cora, John Farrell had a very not fun approach, which hurt the team, I think. But speaking of Alex Cora, I thought he helped bring the team together. He had a very calm demeanor, which I think really helped the team. Yeah. So, yeah, do you have anything to say about Alex Cora and the job he did?
I think just, and the fact that he was with us and has won with us the Red Sox before, I think coming back and coaching a team that you're so passionate about, and like the players obviously know that, so the vibes are just completely there, and you can see that the players are having fun and they want to play for him, and so that just definitely helps. And he was saying the other day just how he's like, they all have like nicknames for each other, and I think probably one of my favorite, this is just kind of off topic, but one of my favorite things about Cora is when he signed with the Sox, and he said, I want a plane full of supplies down to Puerto Rico to go.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
And he's like, I want to bring the trophy there. I want to bring every single player on the team there. Like, I want to bring everyone back, and they all want to, and they all want to support him. And you can just see the love between them and him and the respect. And so I think that just goes a huge way, and it's visible between teams, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, that's really awesome by Alex Cora. So he's definitely he definitely remembers his roots. Yeah. So, I thought Alex Cora did a really good job with this team. And interestingly enough, even though Dustin Pedroia didn't play, Dustin Pedroia and Alex Cora were on the same team in 07, and now he's managing him. It's funny. That's kind of a funny way to look at it.
It's funny though, and then you think about like the respect aspects, but PD's a great player, so I don't think he had too much trouble with that.
Yeah. So I actually have some questions for you, Kristen. Yeah. Here's a few questions. So what's your favorite moment of this postseason, or maybe this season? Gosh. Let's do postseason than this season.
Okay. Postseason, you're gonna have to let me have two. I loved.
Mention as much as you want.
When we won against the Yankees. And Benny's catch against the Yankees, I think, will go down in history. And I will never forget how he had two catches against the Yankees, which are absolutely insane, and they were very gutsy of him. And I think that's what we expect out of a 23-year-old player is like, oh, if he missed that ball, we were going to lose. Like if he missed, you know. And so it's very gutsy of him, but I love that from him, and so that I will never forget that moment.
And how about that catch in Game 4 against the Astros? He saved Kimbrel from a public hanging, so.
Very much so. Very much so. His two catches he had over in the postseason were just amazing. And then I would just say Brock Holt's cycle. I've never been so happy to see that. Yeah. And he deserves it more than anybody, you know. Those are probably my favorite postseason memories. And then winning the World Series is just aside.
Yeah, obviously winning the World Series. So I'll mention two favorite moments of mine. So one was the 16-1 beatdown on the Yankees.
Yeah.
So speaking of the cycle, the 16-1 beatdown was one of the most amazing moments of the postseason. Like,
it felt good to win.
going 1-1 in Fenway Park and then going to New York. I was very worried. It was very worried. And this was before we got a good idea of how this team would be in the playoffs and the fact that they could win on the road. So before I didn't know that this team could really do, because for a while they didn't lose on the road. So that was a great assurance and a great moment.
And I think with them winning that much against the Yankees in Yankee Stadium just gave them so much more confidence when they were on the road again, postseason. Like, not even just for the fans, but for them too. They're like, oh, if we can beat the Yankees, we can beat anyone.
Yeah. And then my other favorite moment was striking out Machado at the end. At his feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so here's the next question. This is an interesting one. Is this the greatest Red Sox team of all time, do you think?
Yes. Yeah, 100%.
I was thinking about this actually the night after the World Series. I actually think this might be the best team of all time. Yeah. I mean, the only team that you would probably compare this, maybe the 04 Sox.
I was about to say the 04 Sox, and even 07 was good, but you knew that there was tension between some of the players on back then, and like just with the Manny Papi era. Well, the Manny Papi era, like you can't ever forget about that. But I don't know. I think this year we are just so much more like cohesive, and Cora was saying, and the team was saying, like when Brock Holt hit a cycle, when they went into 18 innings, all of them, Cora was like, I didn't even need to text them and say, oh, are you okay to play tomorrow? Or, oh, you need a day off. Like they were just ready. And that just shows how much they truly love each other, and like they play for hours and hours and hours straight, and they still want to be playing again the next day. It just shows how much they love it, and they're amazing.
Yeah,
I think so. I really think so.
The boys, if you want.
The boys.
Yeah. So thinking about it, this might be the greatest Red Sox team I think this might be the greatest Red Sox team of all time, like Sam Kennedy said. Like obviously the 04 team will obviously be the most important, important because they broke the curse of the Bambino and came back from 3-0 against the Yankees. But I think that team was very top heavy compared to this team, which I think is a complete team. Because if you look at the postseason, they have like no flaws.
No,
none at all. Like that, and plus, like I mean, they were completely dominant. They only lost like 3 postseason games. Like the previous teams, the previous championship teams didn't do that. So yeah. So I would say
definitely.
Like maybe the best players on the 04 team are probably better than the best players on this team, but as an overall team, I think this is a better team. A better team.
And then when I'm still also like, I want to bring the point, I'm very happy that JBJ did what he did in the postseason, because he's been struggling for a really long time.
Yeah.
Obviously he's best outfielder possible. So I'm very happy we kept him, but offensively I just used to see him kind of as a liability, and he just came in so clutch, and I think once he started to get hyped, everybody else started to get hyped. And that really helped a lot.
Yeah. Especially against the Astros.
Yeah.
I mean, he won the MVP for
he won AL MVP.
All right. So this is the last question. What will you, as far as legacy, what will you remember about this team? What will you remember most about this World Series team?
That's a hard question. I don't know, like kind of just what you've been saying and I've been saying, recapping, is just they've been one of the best teams. They've worked together and they've helped each other. I just think they're just really fun to watch.
Yeah.
You know, they were just really fun. Even in the regular season, you'd still want to watch every single game, even if it's a Tuesday night.
Yeah,
you know?
This is probably the most I've watched the Red Sox in a while. So
yeah.
I'll tell you what my memories of this team.
Yeah.
A team that was dominant. A team that broke the record for the most wins in Red Sox history. A team that is complete. A team that even though they were dominant, still had doubters, especially here in Boston, because we saw them get their butts kicked in the previous 2 years. A lot of people were criticizing the team.
We're tough fans too.
Yeah, we are. We're very.
You do bad one night, we don't like you.
Yeah, Boston is I'll admit it. We're very, very spoiled with their sports teams.
We are
a team that is able to block out the noise and play in big moments. A team that personifies, I think, every single Red Sox team, even though they weren't ever down in a series like in 2004 we were down 3-0. 2007 we were down, I believe, 3-1 to the Indians. In 2013, Big Papi had to hit a grand slam to tie the game. In 2013 against the Detroit Tigers, when they basically were just like pitching,
that was great. Yeah.
pitching us to bits. And so a team that, like every single Boston Boston Red Sox championship team can come back from anything. Pulled together and come back. Especially to me, that really showed in Game 4 against the Dodgers when they were completely lifeless and they completely stormed back and won. And a team that also can respond to trash talk because Aaron Judge with his New York, and Alex Bregman with his trolling of Evaldi, and I'm sure, I don't know if you saw, but the Dodgers, they posted a little they posted a response to the Do Damage. And overall, just a very fun team to watch, and a team, the greatest Red Sox team, I think, of all time, and a team that's actually relatively young, too.
I don't know what our roster is going to look like for next year, but I think
a lot of the roster is going to stay the same.
I think so, too.
So this team should be competitive for quite a bit. Mookie Betts, Xander Bogaerts, Andrew Benintendi, Rafael Devers, they're all really, really young. So this could definitely go on, and hopefully next year they can compete. So overall, just an amazing team, and it's not, and it makes me so proud to be a Red Sox fan.
I'm so proud. I will always be a Red Sox fan.
Yep, me too. All right, then. So Kristen actually has to go right now because she has important business. So it was great for you to be on the show, Kristen.
Yes, thank you very much.
I know how much of a diehard Red Sox fan you are and how much you really wanted to gush about this team.
Yeah, I did. So I really thank you for having me, and I will always talk about the Red Sox whenever you want to hear it.
Yeah, no problem. So, thank you for being here, Kristen, and I'll see you later.
Yeah, I'll see you soon. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, then. Why don't we take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll talk a little New England Patriots, and also talk about the Boston Celtics as well. All right, then. Welcome back to J-Ho, the Sports Dude, and now let's talk about the New England Patriots, who battled the pretty terrible Buffalo Bills. So going to this game, the Patriots were coming off a pretty sloppy but good victory over the Chicago Bears, and the Buffalo Bills were coming off a loss to a Colts team that is honestly not very good, and they got blown out. So, as you could tell by the tone of my voice from last week's episode, I didn't take this game very seriously. Yeah, I predicted 43-13 victory. Which I guess seemed pretty high, and obviously my prediction wasn't even close this time, but I that's how little I thought of the Buffalo Bills. And I gotta say, they did win pretty convincingly, and the point spread, I believe, was 14, and I believe they covered the spread. The Patriots did win 25-6, so they definitely did in the end beat the Bills pretty badly. But it was definitely, by the first half, it was definitely a much more competitive game than I thought. So, like I said, going into this game, I thought the Patriots would completely destroy the Bills from beginning to end. I did looking at the stats, I did find out that the Bills, they actually have a somewhat decent defense. The only problem with the Bills is that their offense is just completely horrific. I mean, when your quarterbacks are Derek Anderson and Nathan Peterman, I mean, there's really no hope for you. I mean, that might be the worst quarterback duo tandem I've ever seen on a team. It's just really bad. So, but I thought what would happen is that the defense would just get so tired from being on the field because the offense would turn the ball over so many times that they would get tired, and then the Patriots would just load up a bunch of points on them. That wasn't exactly the case, especially in the first half. The first half was kind of a doozy. So the Patriots at the half led 9-6, so not a lot of scoring. Besides the first drive, the Patriots were able to move the ball down the field consistently, but the only problem was they could not get the ball into the end zone, and so they had to settle for field goals. And even on the last drive, they were in field goal range, but Gostowski missed the field goal. I mean, part of it I think was due to the fact that it was pretty windy, and I have to give you got to give credit to the Buffalo Bills defense. Even though they They did get 2 sacks on Tom Brady, but I thought for the most part they did a really good job of getting pressure on Tom Brady and making him feel really uncomfortable. And that's basically the formula that in order to beat the Patriots, you have to put pressure on Tom Brady and make him uncomfortable. So I thought they actually did a pretty good job of doing that. And I thought the Bills actually did a pretty good job of limiting the short passing game that the Patriots like to run. So I think a lot of the Patriots, the way that they were able to get downfield were deep passes and big chunk plays down the field. So you gotta give credit. You gotta give credit to the Bills defense because I thought they did a pretty solid job going to this game. Like I said before, I knew that they were a solid defense, and the only reason that nobody paid attention to them is because the offense was just so horrible. And also, I gotta give credit to the Bills fans or Bills Mafia who were definitely who are pretty loud in the stadium and lighting it up and making it very and firing up the Buffalo Bills and it did show. I think the Bills definitely did feed off the crowd, and I believe that the Monday Night Football announcers compared to a college football atmosphere, and I can definitely see that. It definitely helped the Bills, especially in the first half. So definitely the first half was kind of a doozy, and so basically, this wasn't exactly the greatest offensive showing in the history of the NFL. But I think one difference between the two teams that led to the Patriots winning is, one, the obvious. One team has Tom Brady, and the other has Derek Anderson, who should probably be a backup at this point, not a starter. And the other is even though the Patriots got pressured and they had a hard time getting into the end zone and consistently scoring, and at the beginning of the second half, it just seemed like they had a hard time moving the football. But the difference was the Patriots did not turn the ball over, and that was one of the things that I thought they could improve on compared to last week, is not turn the football over. And the Bills turned the football over twice. One off a fumble, and another was an interception touchdown. And basically, when the Patriots scored a touchdown, I thought it was pretty much over. Because, I mean, looking at that Bills offense, you were pretty sure that there's no way they could come back unless Jim Kelly somehow just became younger and went into that game. And then after the interception touchdown, that was just the nail in the coffin of the Buffalo Bills. And so I thought Tom Brady had a solid game. He was 29 for 45, and he threw for 324 yards. I thought he definitely missed a lot of open throws, but considering the circumstances, I thought he played solid. The Patriots didn't really have much of a running game in this game. You could definitely see the absence of Sony Michel on this team when he wasn't there. I mean, the leading back was Cordell Patterson, who is not a running back, and definitely showed. And he was the leading rusher. 10 carries for 38 yards, averaging 3.8 yards per carry. So that kind of shows you how non-effective the running game was in this game. So, and I thought the receivers played solidly. Julian Edelman was definitely the best receiver in this game. He had 9 catches for 104 yards and averaged 11.6 yards per catch. The Bills actually, I thought, did a pretty decent job of covering the receivers down the field, and same with I thought they did a pretty decent job of guarding Rob Gronkowski, who for some reason, I just don't feel like he's been quite the same. I don't know if he's been injured or he just kind of lost a step, but I don't know. For some reason, I just don't feel like Gronk is quite the same as far as receiver. I mean, he's still an effective blocker, but I feel like he's not as dominant as he used to be. Hopefully next week that'll change. But so I thought the receivers were not great, but I thought they definitely made big catches when they needed to. I thought the offensive line, while on paper, stats wise, I mean they did give up 2 sacks, which isn't terrible. But I thought the offensive line was pretty underwhelming in this game. Brady constantly had pressure in his face, and when he did not have pressure in his face, he was able to deliver the ball downfield. But for the most part in this game, he had pressure in his face, and as you could show from the stats, that the running game was basically non-existent. So I thought the offensive line was a bit underwhelming. And as far as the defense, I thought they did a really good job. Derek Anderson was 22 for 39 for 290 yards, which sounds great, but I mean they only could kick field goals, and then Derek Anderson became Derek Anderson when he threw an interception. I thought the defensive line did a pretty good job getting pressure on Derek Anderson and limiting the run game for the Buffalo Bills. So, and they were able to get 3 sacks on Derek Anderson, and Devin McCourty got the pick 6. However, it's a little hard to judge the defense, considering that they're going up against the 2 of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. So, but I thought they played well, which is a good sign considering that they were just completely awful for the past few weeks. But I want to say it's a step in the right direction, but I'm not 100% sure considering that they were basically going up against nobody. So, and I thought the special teams was solid for the most part. As far as offensive stars, I gotta mention Steven Gostkowski, who made 4 out of 5 field goals. He was able to score a lot of the Patriots' points with while not being able to get into the end zone. And also, I think I'll give him a pass on missing the 50-yard one before the half, because the conditions were pretty bad. It was pretty windy, so it was going to be pretty tough to hit that. So, not quite the dominant throttling that I thought it was going to be, but still a solid win over a pretty bad team, but on the road against a division rival and a pretty hostile environment. I would say a decent win with the few cracks in the Patriots' armor that definitely is a little worrisome, like the offensive line. But I think they should definitely be better once people are more healthy, because the Patriots have been a little banged up at this point. So, and they're definitely going to need to play better for next week's opponent. But we'll get to that once we get to that. So, not a pretty win, but a win nevertheless. And also, I should mention the Patriots were 5 for 14 on 3rd down. That's got to improve. They had the benefit of the Bills going 4 for 14 on 3rd down and 0 for 2 on 4th down. So that's definitely got to improve. But they still won the game, which is the most important thing. All right, then. Why don't we let's move on to the Boston Celtics, who have been on a bit of a win streak lately. They've won 4 straight games and are starting to look like the team that I thought they would look like. So we'll talk about each of the 4 games, and then I'll give you my overall thoughts on what I've seen from this team so far. So the first game was a game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Going into this game, the Thunder hadn't won a game, and these were 2 of the statistically the worst offenses in the NBA. So, And in the first half, the Celtics were pretty offensively. They were just awful. They scored 34 points in the first half. The first half. Yeah, it was pretty rough. They were down 50-34 in the first half. But in the second half, they picked up and they were able to come back and actually win the game. The Celtics actually won this game 101-95, so they were able to make up for that pretty awful first half to win the game. So, and as far as the stats, so field goal percentage, the Boston Celtics were slightly below the Thunder. They shot. The Celtics shot 38.4%, and the OKC Thunder shot 39.4%. 3-point percentage was a big difference. Boston Celtics shot 34.4% from 3. OKC shot 25% from 3. Turnovers, Boston Celtics had 12. OKC had 16. Rebounds, Celtics had 60, and Thunder had 70. So I thought the star of this game was Jason Tatum, who shot 8 for 18. And had 24 points. I also thought Al Horford played pretty well too. He scored 19. Marcus Morris had a pretty good game, coming off the bench, scoring 21 points. So I thought it was a pretty good comeback win, considering that they were completely awful in the first half, but they were able to come back, and that seemed to put the Celtics into gear, because in the next few games, especially offensively, they played much better. So let's move on to the next game. So the next game, the Celtics played the Detroit Pistons, and going to this game, the Detroit Pistons were undefeated. They won. They are 4-0 and hadn't lost a game, and the Celtics completely destroyed them and basically dominated this entire game, winning 109-89. And basically, the Celtics dominated most of the stats compared to the Detroit Pistons. So, field goal percentage, the Boston Celtics shot 45.3%. Detroit shot 37.1%. 3-point percentage was completely lopsided. The Boston Celtics shot 41.2% from 3, and Detroit Pistons shot 18.9% from 3. Turnovers, Boston Celtics had 13, Detroit had 11. Rebounds, the Celtics had 62, and Detroit Pistons had 53. So, complete domination from the Boston Celtics. So Jaylen Brown, I thought the start of the game was Jaylen Brown, who had 19 points, went 6 and shot 6 for 13. And Marcus Morris had a pretty good game, scoring 18 points and shooting 7 for 12 and 3 for 6 from 3. And Daniel Tice actually had a pretty good game coming off the bench too. He scored 17 points, shot 7 for 9, and actually was 2 of 3 from 3. So Daniel Tice had a pretty good game. And interestingly enough, Tatum and Al Horford and Kyrie Irving didn't really have much of an impact in this game. Gordon Hayward had a solid game as well. He scored 15 points, was 6 for 11. So it was a pretty good. It was pretty good to see Gordon Hayward go in the right direction in that game. So I mean, the Boston Celtics completely dominated that game. Honestly, I think the score made it seem closer than it actually was, even though the score was pretty lopsided. This was just a complete butt whooping. All right, so next game. They played the Detroit Pistons again, and this was a much closer game than the other one. And so this time they went to the to TD Garden, and it was a much closer game. And the Pistons might have had a chance to tie the game because they had the last possession, and they were only down by 3 with 10 seconds. But Blake Griffin sort of had a pretty bad pass, which led to a turnover, which essentially ended the game. So to me, what stood out about this game was this seemed to be Kyrie Irving's breakout game, because the past few weeks he hadn't been playing very well, but in this game he finally broke out. I'll go into that later, but let's go over the stats first. So field goal percentage, the Detroit Pistons shot 42% from field goal percentage. Boston had 44%. 3-point percentage, Detroit was 26.7. Boston was 29%. Turnovers, Detroit at 17. Boston at 14. Rebounds, Detroit had 54 and Boston had 55. So the star of the game was definitely Kyrie Irving, who had 31 points and shot 10 for 16 from the field. So Kyrie was the best player on the court in this game. Blake Griffin had a pretty good game as well. He had 24 points, shooting 8 for 17, but Kyrie Irving was the star. I don't know, might have been the hair, because he cut his hair, so, and maybe that was the reason why why he played so much better. I don't know, maybe he's the anti-Samson, in which you cut up, instead of having long hair and being strong, you cut his hair and he's not strong. Probably not. I guess another possibility is the advice Tommy Heinsohn gave him, and which I think he said that he actually took pretty seriously, but I think that's probably more of a better explanation than the hair. But I don't know, maybe it is the hair. I mean, everybody has unique quirks, and I guess Kyrie Irving has his own unique quirks as well. So, and I thought Jason Tatum had a pretty solid game. He scored 16 points. Al Horford scored 11. Jaylen Brown scored 14, and Marcus Morris, getting plenty of production off the bench, scored 15. So overall, I thought it was a good team performance and a good breakout game for the offense. Okay, speaking about the Detroit Pistons, I mean, they're a good team. I did pick them as an 8th seed, and I think that's where I from what I've seen, that's kind of how I view the Detroit Pistons, an 8th seed. But still 2 very solid victories over a decent team. And while the defense has been not as crisp as the previous games, they definitely made stops when they needed to. And speaking of shaky defense, why don't we move on to the next game, in which the Boston Celtics played the undefeated Bucks, who are I believe better than the Pistons. So plus on primetime TV, and the Bucks were 7-0, so they were definitely on a streak. So this was definitely a good test to measure where the Boston Celtics ranked in the East, and the Celtics didn't have Jaylen Brown, so that was unfortunate. But the Celtics did win this game, 117 to 113. So definitely. So in this game there was a ton of offense. Not a ton of great defense, but a ton of offense. And so, I mean, the Celtics were just raining threes all throughout the entire game. In fact, they broke the record for most threes in a game by a Boston Celtics team, with 24 threes in the game. And another one of the takeaways I got from this game is Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward have finally looked like they're finally in game shape and have returned. And so field goal percentage, the Milwaukee Bucks had a 48.2 field goal percentage. Boston Celtics had 44.6%. 3-point percentage, Milwaukee hit 31% of their threes. Boston hit 43.6% of their threes. Turnovers, Milwaukee had 14. Boston had 13. Rebounds, Milwaukee had a very, very slight edge with 53 to 52. So Kyrie Irving was definitely the star for the Celtics with 28 points, going 10 for 20 from the shooting, and he was also 6 for 12 on shooting threes as well. And Giannis Antetokounmpo also had a really good game with 33 points, 13 for 22 for the Milwaukee Bucks. So I think Giannis was the best player on the floor and had the best performance. But for the Celtics, it was Kyrie Irving who had the best performance. And Al Horford also had a pretty good game. 6 for 15 shooting, 4 for 11 from 3. He had 18 points. And Gordon Hayward finally broke out with 18 points. Went 6 for 11, 3 for 5 from 3. And so off the bench, Marcus Morris also continuing getting lots of production off the bench. Scoring 17 points, 6 for 11 shooting, and 3 for 8 from 3. So definitely a lot of offense. So looking at this streak, there's a few takeaways I got. One is that the offense is back with the Celtics showing that they can shoot threes, and Kyrie Irving is back with back-to-back great games against the Detroit Pistons and Milwaukee Bucks. And it looks like Gordon Hayward has come back into game shape, and he's looked pretty good the past few games. And Marcus Morris has proven that he's a very valuable asset off the bench. And of course, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are giving you pretty solid production. So this is sort of what I was hoping the offense would look like. And but there was a few worries that have creeped up during this win streak that worry me a little bit. One is the defense has been has not been as great as previous games. It seems they're allowing more open shots than in the previous games. So I think they're still a good defensive. They've still been playing pretty decent defense, minus the Milwaukee game. But I don't know. It's just not quite the same. They're not putting enough pressure on teams and making them shoot bad shots. But I definitely think the defense will improve. And another thing I'm a little worried about is the fact that they allow teams to when they're ahead around like third quarter and early in the fourth quarter, they seem to be allowing teams to come back, and that this kind of showed in the Milwaukee Bucks game when they were basically dominating the game, and then eventually the Bucks went on a crazy run and came back to make the game really competitive. So also I should mention that in that game I thought they were a little too reliant on the three, and sometimes that happens to the Celtics team. They just continue to shoot threes, and I kind of wanted them to go more into the paint, because actually the Milwaukee Bucks had 30 free throws attempts, and the Celtics had 13. So that's a pretty large difference in free throw attempts. So I think if they scored buckets in the paint, it would have been harder for Milwaukee to eventually come back in this game. That worries me a little bit, but as long as they can keep the offense going, and they can put more pressure and play better defense, I think this will improve. But that was definitely an issue last year. So they sometimes have a little hard putting away teams. But I think, and while the interesting thing about this team is like you always know that they can come back, but they also have a hard time putting away teams. So I definitely think that will improve once this team plays more together and they become more cohesive. All right, then. Why don't we take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll discuss this week for the Boston Bruins, and then we'll preview the Patriots-Packers game coming up this week, and I'll answer some questions. All right, welcome back to J-Ho, the Sports Dude, and why don't we talk about the Boston Bruins, who had a pretty mixed week this week, but they did win 2 out of 3 games, but not perfect. But all right, let's talk about Game 1 of this week. They played the Philadelphia Flyers, and the Bruins won 3-0 with Halak as the goalie. And interestingly enough, if you look at the statistics, it didn't really seem like the Bruins won this game that convincingly, but they did. As far as shots, the Flyers had 26, the Bruins had 25. Hits, Flyers had 17, Bruins had 16. Face-off wins, Flyers had 31, Bruins had 21. However, the Bruins had 15 takeaways, and the Flyers had 12. And definitely a key stat is the fact that the Bruins were 2 for 5 on the power play, and the Flyers were 0 for 3. So if you don't win on the power play, it's not going to go very well. And I think the star of the game was Big Z Zdeno Chara, who had 2 goals, which is pretty interesting because Chara is not much of a goal scorer, but he had 2 goals. And also Jake DeBrusk had a goal, and Jansen Heinen and David Krejci had an assist as well. So. And Halak had a pretty good game, blocking 26 shots. Pretty solid victory for the Boston Bruins. And then the next game, the opposite happened, in which the Boston Bruins faced their hated rival, the Montreal Canadiens, and lost 0-3. And this time, Tuukka Rask was the goalie. So Boston actually outshot the Canadiens 33-23, but the Canadiens out-hit the Boston Bruins 28-20. The Canadiens won 35 faceoffs. The Bruins won 34. As far as takeaways, Canadiens had 16. Bruins had 11. Both teams were 0 for 3 on power play, so that wasn't really a factor in this game. So, pretty underwhelming performance for the Bruins offense. I would say, I guess you would tip your hat to Carey Price, who blocked 33 shots, but still a pretty underwhelming performance. And the next game, they played the Carolina Hurricanes and won 3-2. And this time, Halak was the goalie for the Boston Bruins. And so the Hurricanes actually outshot the Bruins 44-31. As far as hits, they actually out-hit the Bruins 28-23. The Hurricanes won 37 faceoffs, while the Bruins won 29 faceoffs. And as far as power play, they both scored 2 power play goals. Hurricanes were 2 for 4. Bruins were 2 for 5. And so, So I would say for the most part, statistically the Hurricanes outplayed the Boston Bruins, but I think one stat that sticks out as far as giveaways, Bruins had 12 and the Hurricanes had 15. So I would say that definitely played a part. And also the Bruins were able to get a lot of production out of their top line. Brad Marchand had 2 goals, which were actually the tying goal and the goal to win the game. Patrice Bergeron also had 3 assists, and David Pastrnak had a goal. So very solid win for the Boston Bruins. And also give credit to Halak, who had to face 44 shots and blocked 42 of them. So Halak also had a pretty good game. And this is actually the 16th straight victory the Bruins have had over the Carolina Hurricanes. So basically, the Bruins completely own this team. So far I've seen a few things from this Boston Bruins team. It seems like defensively they've gotten much better. They're actually third in the NHL with goals against. The offense has been okay in spurts, but I think it'll definitely pick up. Actually, right now the Bruins are second in the Atlantic Division behind the Tampa Bay Lightning, and actually tied with the Montreal Canadiens. I definitely did not see that coming this year. And as far as goaltending, I mean, I bring this up every single week, and I hate to be a broken record, but honestly, I think at this point, Halak should be the starter. He's played much better than Tuukka Rask, and I mean, there's still hope for Tuukka Rask. I mean, if David Price showed that you can recover from the choke label, then Tuukka Rask can, but I think for now, Halak needs to be the goalie. Also, I think if the Bruins are going to make a run this year, I don't think Tuukka Rask is going to be the goalie. I'll just leave it at that. All right, then. And next, they play the Nashville Predators, which will be a good litmus test for how well where the Boston Bruins stand in the NHL, because the Nashville Predators are a pretty good team. So we'll see. All right, then. Why don't we preview the Patriots versus Packers game coming this Sunday? This is the Sunday night game, so pretty big game for the New England Patriots, who have to play the Green Bay Packers, who are coming to Foxborough. And so the Patriots should definitely expect a fired up Packers team, who definitely feel a little bitter after coming off a rough loss to the Los Angeles Rams, in which they had a chance to beat them if it weren't for Ty Montgomery fumbling on a kick return at the end. So, all right. So why don't we get into some numbers about the Packers? So the Packers are actually 13th in points, averaging 25 points. They're 5th in passing yards and 21st in rushing. Defensively, they're 16th in points per game with 24.7 points against. 5th against the pass and 22nd against the run. Actually, that's actually kind of surprised me, but yeah, they're 5th against the pass. So here's what I think the Patriots need to do in order to win this game. So on offense, I think they should run the ball, because one, the Packers defense is pretty susceptible to the run game. So hopefully Sonny Michel can come back for this game, and the Patriots can run the ball effectively on the Green Bay Packers, and also keep Aaron Rodgers off the field, because I still am very worried about this Patriots defense, and the more you keep Aaron Rodgers off the field, the less opportunities he has to score on the Patriots defense. And as far as the Patriots defense, they need to keep Aaron Rodgers. They need to cover his receivers and be physical with Aaron Rodgers' receivers. That way he doesn't get easy throws down the field. Because if he gets easy throws down the field, it's probably going to end up with the drive's going to end up with a touchdown. So, and basically, and also limit the Packers to field goals as much as you can. I mean, I don't completely trust this defense, and I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have a pretty good day. I kind of imagine this game is going to be kind of similar to the Kansas City Chiefs and Patriots game a few weeks ago. So I do expect a lot of scoring, but I think and also stopping the running game. The Packers don't have a great running game, so stopping the running game will definitely help as far as time of possession. Because I think if the Patriots win time of possession, I think they have a pretty solid chance of winning this game. And so like I said before, run the ball and do better on third down than last week. Last week they were pretty horrible on third down. And obviously protect Tom Brady. And And as far as the defense, just don't allow every single drive to be a touchdown, and try to stop the running game so the Patriots could win time of possession. So, as far as a prediction for this, as far as the score, like I said, I think this game is going to be a shootout. I'm gonna go. Let's go. Patriots 37, Packers 33. So, I expect to see a lot of passing yards and a lot of points put up on the board. I would definitely be worried if this was in Lambeau Field, but it is in Gillette Stadium, so I think the Patriots are going to win this game. All right, then, before we end the show, why don't I answer some questions from my Instagram story. So every week I put up a post on my Instagram story, allowing you guys to ask me questions related to sports. So, first question, and most of them are going to be Red Sox related because they're off the World Series. So, Zach asks, opinions on Sue Lin. So, honestly, I don't have a strong opinion on Sue Lin. I haven't seen him play much. The only time I have seen him a few times after some players are injured or like they just throw him in as a pinch runner at the end of a game. So I mean he's okay, I guess. Honestly, I don't think they really need him on this team. I mean he has an okay batting average. Last year he hit 246. He had 16 hits. So, honestly, to be honest, I don't really have much of an opinion on him, since I haven't really seen him that much. But, honestly, so far, I don't think they really need him. I guess he has some potential, but honestly, I can't say I have a very strong opinion on him at all. Next question, Connor asks, how do you think the team will be next year? So, I don't see why this team isn't going to compete for another World Series. So the thing is, this team is pretty young. Mookie Betts, Rafael Devers, Xander Bogaerts, they're all really young. And plus, I would say for the most part, this team most of the players are under contract. So we'll see how things go with Craig Kimbrell and Eovaldi in the off season, but I would say for the most part this team would come back. So I don't see why they can't compete for another World Series. Obviously, the Astros are still going to be there, and the Yankees will definitely try to improve this offseason to compete with the Red Sox. And I guess the Dodgers and the Cubs will compete in the National League and try to get better to reach the Red Sox. But I don't see. I definitely think this team can compete next year. They'll definitely be able to compete, and I think there's a strong chance that they'll win the division. They can definitely win the division again. I mean, repeating is really hard to do in baseball. I mean, I think the last time a team repeated was the late '90s Yankees, who I think they won like a bunch of World Series in a row. So I mean, there hasn't really been a repeat championship since the late '90s Yankees. But I would say they can definitely compete, and I think they can win the division next year. All right, final question comes from Peyton, who asks, "Can you give me a shout out?" Okay. Hey, Peyton Baker. Hopefully you're listening to podcasts, and hopefully you're doing well. All right. All right then. So thank you for listening to J-Ho the Sports Dude, and it was a lot of fun doing this episode. Thank you for Kristen for being on, and it was definitely fun seeing the Red Sox win the World Series, and hopefully we get more Boston championships to come. As for now, thank you for listening to J-Ho the Sports Dude, and I'm out.